Okay, we have heard from Harvard law professor Lawrence Tribe, who is sounding the alarm that he believes Donald Trump is not going to leave the presidency peacefully in 2020 and might specifically use bogus national emergency declarations to justify his reelection as a sort of October surprise type of thing. So let's step back before we get into Lawrence Tribe's comments and kind of think about the context for a moment. There was discussion when Barack Obama was president of Obama declaring martial law to prevent the 2016 election from happening and to stay in power indefinitely. There was the idea of Barack Obama, I don't even know, not holding the 2016 election in some other way or using some kind of arcane legal mechanism to try to become president for life. Now, it was ridiculous. There was no merit to any of those accusations. Barack Obama had never said anything of the sort. Barack Obama did not have authoritarian tendencies. Under Donald Trump, on the other hand, we're hearing similar allegations, the difference being that Trump does have a pattern in history of those authoritarian tendencies, particularly related to the fairness of elections. Barack Obama never suggested that president for life would be nice, which is something that Donald Trump has said. Donald Trump has talked about Hillary Clinton getting 3 million illegal votes, started a voter integrity commission, election integrity commission, to look into it with no evidence. It found no evidence, but Donald Trump was willing to spend untold amount of money in order to do that. Donald Trump refused to say that he would accept election results that showed he lost to Hillary Clinton in 2016. He has other authoritarian tendencies that we've discussed, not directly related to elections. We've seen over the last few weeks some of his flunkies, like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the press secretary, start to float the idea that Trump could only lose via some kind of voter or election fraud or foul play in 2020, which is, of course, an indefeasible argument. You can't possibly argue against that if someone is asserting that. Michael Cohen said he's worried that Donald Trump will not relinquish control of the Oval Office if indeed he loses in 2020. We've already done a segment talking about how it's unlikely in practice that it would actually be allowed to happen by the military and by law enforcement. But all of these ideas relate to ways that one might hypothetically illegally seize power or refuse to relinquish it. Lawrence Tribe brings us a different idea. The idea Lawrence Tribe presented on MSNBC over the weekend is that Donald Trump, we know he's willing to declare bogus national emergencies over things that are not actually emergencies or crises, the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border being our example right now. Donald Trump, Lawrence Tribe suggests, would use a bogus national emergency declaration to create a type of fear that would maybe get him reelected in November of 2020. That's the idea. Here is Harvard law professor Lawrence Tribe saying it himself.
We can't count on his being voted out of office in 2020. He is sufficiently corrupt and will probably have enough help from not too friendly foreign powers, Russia, Saudi Arabia, maybe Turkey, so that we can't count on removing this guy by an election. And in fact, he may fabricate yet another so-called national emergency to influence that election. What we have to do is persistently gather the facts.
Right. So what he is saying is not that it would be an illegal seizure of the White House or a refusal to accept the results. He's saying Trump could use bogus national emergencies to get reelected. And of course, in a country where half the country doesn't vote, half the population doesn't vote, and so many people are voting based on incorrect understandings of the world around them, it's not only plausible, but it's extraordinarily feasible to actually do. Now, any president could do this, right? Any president, as their first term is nearing an end, and with a reelection in doubt, could do it. But I believe, Pat, that it's different with Trump because he has a history of having no problem lying about what even constitutes an emergency. Many presidents exaggerate the seriousness of situations, but Donald Trump has created some of this whole cloth, including with the U.S.-Mexico border. And importantly, we know that Trump supporters and his base will 100% uncritically accept whatever emergency declaration Trump makes. So I think that this is a more likely scenario that Lawrence Tribe points out. Not that Trump will illegally refuse to leave the Oval Office, but that he will engineer some kind of false situation to justify his reelection, which will work.
Yeah, I think this is more of an interesting conversation. Sometimes we do talk about if Trump will willingly vacate the Oval Office if he does lose the election. And I often think that that is putting the cart before the horse. Like, we have to find out if he's actually going to lose the election first. We have to have the election, and we should focus on that. But if he prematurely declares a national emergency, knowing that it's going to garner him some support, may put him over the top, then I do think we have to actually think about it. What that emergency would be, on the other hand, I don't know. Is it going to be something more like a false flag, or is it going to be him making a mountain out of a molehill like he did with this last one on immigration?
Well, the most important consideration, no matter what it would be, is that Trump can't do any of this stuff without Republican support, or at least Republican indifference. Because if Donald Trump does fabricate any kind of bogus emergency, if Republicans don't allow it, right, it's not veto proof. If Trump declares a bogus emergency and the House and Senate vote it down, and Trump vetoes that vote, that veto can be overridden if, and this is the important if, Republicans decide they're not going to allow Trump to use national emergencies to try to get himself reelected. At this point, the Republican Party has demonstrated itself to be so corrupt that they are likely to allow Donald Trump to do whatever because of so-called party unity, or because a Democrat would be worse, or whatever specious justification they come up with. So I think that this is a much greater danger than the sort of cartoonish Trump barricades himself in the Oval Office and refuses to leave. One of today's sponsors is Minds.com. Minds is an open source social network platform. It's kind of like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter all in one package, except that the goal of Minds is to help create a free and open internet where privacy and free speech are the top priority, and to make sure that content creators are fairly compensated for their efforts. Minds doesn't track you like a lot of other social networks do, and users on Minds can earn Minds tokens for interacting with the site, such as when you like, dislike, or share content, or when you create content yourself by uploading a photo or video or writing a blog post. Then your Minds tokens can be used to boost your content on the site so that more people will see it. Minds even offers a feature kind of like Patreon, where your fans can unlock your premium content by sending you Minds tokens. Everything is encrypted. For example, Minds can't read your private messages on the platform. And like I mentioned, everything is open source, meaning that in the interest of transparency, you can actually see the code that fuels the site, which is definitely not something that lots of other social and content sharing platforms can say. Minds sees a lot of issues with today's most popular social media platforms, especially when it comes to free speech, privacy, transparency, and compensating content creators. And those are the problems that they're trying to solve. I encourage you to go check it out at Minds.com. There's also a mobile app, and you can actually follow The David Pakman Show on Minds at Minds.com/David Pakman Show. I've also put a link right underneath this video.